What's up guys, SkyKevin here, and today we're going over some of the new information for Season 5 of LO. I just released a video only mere days ago, and surprisingly, after 7 months of radio silence, we have our first update on Season 5. I'm going to go into all the new info and my take on things now that we know more. So, let's get started. Going through the new recent blog post, in it we have a new community manager, aka Neon, who I am very excited will be taking on the role, as he has for the most part done a lot with the player base in terms of keeping them informed in the past. Now, for the post, they've announced a complete overhaul of the game itself. This is something we've been speculating about, but it's great to hear that they've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes to make some major changes to the game. I say major, but let's keep our expectations reserved for now. One of the biggest changes he mentions to this are the changes to the mobs and AI. Now, I for one agree wholeheartedly with the need to change the mobs and AI, but it'll be interesting to see how they change them. If we look speculatively at what kinds of creatures they've included so far, the main ones that come to mind for me are Rupus, Nurs, Occams, and Killins. I think with Rupus generally they're quite fine, and they can rinse and repeat them as much as they want with the different weapons and armor, and they work great in the game so far. Nurs, however, definitely needed a rework given how glitchy they were and how the damage numbers with them were so messed up. Further, I think the biggest thing that they needed were some way to counter or dodge them, or at least foresee what kinds of attacks they were using ahead of time. The main meta to kill them was generally just to either mob them with a bunch of players, or stand on their head, which doesn't seem to fit the game very well. I think making it more of a dodge block combat mechanic could really help with making them a fun enemy to fight in the game, instead of a nuisance. Killins are also a mob that I think needed a rework, in terms of just making them harder and a little bit more dangerous. First of all, the fact that a player can just grapple onto them and they don't respond aggressively definitely needs a change. I mean, they're the closest things we have to a dragon in the game, so we might as well make them swoop down from the sky and try to claw some players, rather than just your walker's wings. That being said, maybe reducing the overall damage that those claws deal to players might help in that regard as well, instead of getting two-shot by them. Lastly, we have Occams. This is kind of a controversial one because they used to be so scary before we had stone bases. I think reworking these creatures really wouldn't be too difficult. If we once again removed the aggro radius so that they can be found anywhere on the map, and maybe add the ability for them to go underground and remove the ability for them to follow players that are not in a walker. I know that there are some issues that this might introduce with killing them, but I think that plus the removal of stone bases, which can make farming them a breeze currently, it would be very helpful to making them a substantial enemy nowadays. Additionally, introducing some speed changes and perhaps a weak point where you can shoot them might help as well. Imagine that an Occam is fast enough to chase down any of the walkers you're in, but if you're constantly shooting at it, it has some sort of stun effect or something like that, which keeps it from trampling you. That way, if you did have someone in a smaller walker trying to constantly lure it onto you, it would have no problem taking care of their walker. But if they do have a weapon associated with it, there's more of a give and take battle that has to go on with the creature. I think generally one of the big changes they need to make with mobs are adding some kind of weak points, as I mentioned before. Adding more collisions to the monsters as well would help to make it so it's not so glitchy when you're on top of them, like with the Occam. Finally, I think adding a way to fight or counter them without taking too much damage is very important with this game, as a lot of the time you don't want to be sitting there constantly healing. This goes for all the other monster designs that they might release in the future as well. We'll have to see what they say in the next blog post, as they said it's specifically going to be on the new monsters and AI. This does bring me to their commitment to release new blog posts and all the details for Season 5. These are likely going to be quite vague posts with very little detail on what's actually coming, but I do like that they're planning to make them weekly, and they're going to be changes that we'll be expecting leading up to Season 5. The more informed they can make us about the decisions, the more that we can make videos like this one, giving our personal feedback on what the game needs and doesn't need. Often I find when games try to do a large overhaul like this, if they don't take into account what the players are planning to do with those mechanics, a lot of the time they can miss some blind spots that will affect the game precisely as soon as the season releases. He also mentions at this point in the post the Loverhaul. Overhaul. I don't know, Loverhaul sounds better. A quick point to this. It's nice that they saw what was going on with the vision of Season 4, and they're now actively looking to make some positive changes. They've got a new vision, and we have no idea what that's going to be, but I really hope it still leans towards the MMO aspects of things. I understand the necessity of seasons with the current iteration of the game, but I am so tired of grinding experience and fragments every single time. If they can include a wipe mechanic that just lets me keep my character, I would be perfectly happy with that. He finishes off the note that they will be opening up a public test branch eventually for all of the players with these different mechanics to be tested. We'll see when they decide to open this up, as well as how long they do it for, but personally, I think their best option is a slow burn introduction to Season 5. I'm thinking anywhere between 1 to 2 weeks beforehand to give players a lot of time to test things out and give feedback on anything that's going to be broken, or just see how the meta changes itself. Then, if they do find that there are some outwardly broken things, they can delay the release a little longer to fix those things up before they actually get into the official season. You never know. If they're doing a full rework of the game, we might actually hate the new iteration that they are going for, and they'll need time to fix and adjust to make it better for the player base. Finally, we've got one of the new creatures introduced, the mountain crawler. There's a lot to unpack in this image, so let's break this down, and for the first time ever in a video, using the latest in AI technology, I can zoom and enhance. The landscape looks pretty common to the Spire's map, and we can even see one of them in the distance. The walker on the right is a Schmetterling walker with some repeaters, catapults, and ballistas, as well as a driver's cage on top. The Hornet walker in the distance has some catapults, ballista, and repeaters as well. The photo was taken likely on a larger walker, and we can see that there's a ballista and bone bolt to the left that doesn't look to be anything new either. Obviously, we've got the featured mountain crawler creature, which only has 8 legs, and for reference, crabs normally have 10 legs when you include their claw arms. The face also resembles a crab in the way the trees grow out of the front of it with 2 beady looking eyes. Underneath, it looks like a chitin surface and doesn't show any weak points whatsoever. On top of it, we can see the actual mountainside itself with platforms that include some catapults and repeaters, as well as other decorations. The interesting thing to me about this creature is that there is a lack of something being at the top of the mountainside. At least as far as I can see here, there's just another catapult and repeater up there. Usually, the goal if this was a climbable objective would be to get something on top of that, but since this isn't the case, it has me wondering, what is the purpose of this creature? Is it simply here for aesthetics? Can you kill it? Is there a way to build on top of it? And why are there a bunch of catapults and ballista? And will those weapons possibly be manned by some other AI creatures for when your walker gets nearby? I wanted to finish this video with one last note that there was a lot of stuff directly from Neon on the Discord as well that I've got to go through. And so this video is already long enough as it is. So I'll be going through all of that info on a separate one very soon to speculate on the rest of his answers. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.